Hey everyone, welcome to another video in the Master Data Management in SQL series. My name is Elric, and in today's video we are going to be adding another thing to our spiral, another subject area. And that subject area will be processes. Processes being functions, procedures, jobs, external executables, anything that runs and performs an action of some sort. So, since we're going to be covering processes and process parameters, similar to how we covered data sets and data points, I did some work ahead of time to help speed things up. So I'm just going to go over the data that I entered. So first with the process. The process class that I have is SQL, because these are SQL processes. And under that, I have two families, one for procedure and one for function. And these match SQL's definitions, procedure and function, which are their routine type, essentially. So that's why I chose these key names specifically. And for the process type, I have common under both of them, because we don't have a separation yet. We do, but we're just not there yet. We're just going to have common items for right now. For the process parameters, the inputs and outputs for our processes, and let me make sure that I have a foreign key. I do not. So I'm actually going to design this table really quickly. I'm going to insert a column. Sysref process ID, foreign key non-nullable, with a relationship. With a new relationship to the process table, process ID, and the process parameter table will be the process ID. Okay. Oh, and I have to do the same thing for process. Yep. No problems. So in the process table, I'm going to insert it right before the process type ID, like I did right before the process parameter type ID. We're going to add the database ID and a relationship, a new relationship to the database table. And this is because a database is not really, absolutely, it is a SQL thing, but it doesn't just have to be a SQL thing. We are modeling subjects. So a database could be a folder on your server that holds data sets that are text documents, that could hold an executable that we need to know about for our application. So that is why I am adding a database ID to the process, even though we have made the rule, and we will stick to the rule, that all of our SQL code is written in the interface main. We still have to account for things outside of our data management system. So, yeah. And our process parameters relating to the process are parameters, are variables. So process parameter class I have is common, because we don't really have a class for these yet. Let me close this. Okay. The family, I match the parameter mode. So we have inputs, like variables. We have outputs, which are results from functions. And we have inputs and outputs, which are like our default current. We could pass something in and get something back. And for the type, I didn't fill anything in yet because I wanted to do it here. So I created a simple insert statement for the process parameter. And what I'm going to do is remove the specific dataset number now because we have updated our default, so we no longer need that in our insert statement. And I'm going to replace the family ID with the number 1 representing in. So I'm going to take all of our data points and all of our user-defined data types and bring them straight through into our process parameter type under in, under out, and finally under in and out. So if I go back to the process parameter type, we have all of these ins and outs plus unassigns for each. But they all serve different purposes, even though they may be the same thing. Technically they're not because they have limitations. So each of these items have a different limitation. Some of these are in only, some of them are out only, and some of them are in and out. So that is our process parameter type. So fortunately, because we are only working in interface main, this code's gonna get really simple. Sweet. Actually, I did forget something from the last, no, I didn't. Did I? No, we're good. Excellent. Sweet. So, from our routines table, we're going to need the catalog, the database, the name, the routine type, which for us is a family, no, a class, no, a family, right? So we just went up. And I believe that is it. We don't need the definition yet, but this is bringing up a good point. Routine definition is what I will be querying to rip all my comments out to generate wiki pages. So excellent. Now for our parameters, we will need the specific name, the ordinal position, parameter mode, and parameter name. And one more, I think user defined type. User defined type name. Excellent. So now if I run this, we should get a pretty simple explanation or representation of what we need to store, at least. So let's begin. I'm going to go ahead and start coding. You can follow along if you'd like, or just watch. Either or. Let's have some fun. So I'm going to actually translate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Routine catalog will be our database name. Routine name will be our process name. Routine type will be our process family key name. Separate these. And then after we insert it, we'll need a process ID. For process parameters, we will have our process parameter sequence, our process parameter family key name, our process parameter name, and our process parameter type key name. So that is essentially it for these two statements. Then we just need the interim values. So I think all I need is a database ID. So now we don't need to initialize anything. This is straight code. Oh. I do need 3 of these. Actually, nope. We will check when we need to check. And that was for, yep, that is what I forgot. Process type ID. And instead of doing unassigned, because we have a dynamic unassigned, it's either going to be in, out, in, or out. We're going to fetch it if we really cannot figure out what's going on. All right, so our process cursor, and then we are going to open, fetch next from, into, at, database name, process name, process family key name. Excellent. So from here, we're going to make sure our database ID is null. Get our database name, database ID, and then we're going to see, we're going to get our process ID. This is ref process ID from process, Gonna get our process ID, and we're gonna null that out too. We start getting into the bigger code pieces. I stop having my nulls in one location and start having my nulls right above the statement, just because it makes it easier to see what is going on. That's what I mean, nulling out my variable that changed during the cursor. So we're going to make sure the process ID is null, and we're going to try to look it up. If the process ID is null, we're going to insert it. So I will need, did I declare process type ID? I did not. So I needed a process type ID. So select process type ID. And I'm just going to find a procedure that we had our class family type stuff in. I think it's a finder procedure, database finder. Sweet. It's got the system at the top. So I'll just grab that. And replace system with process. So we know they're going to be SQL and common for right now. And we don't know if it's going to be a procedure or a function. So we're going to start using a dynamic key name. We're going to get the process type ID. Should be one or the other. So this is to help. If process type ID is not null, then we can insert. Not the primary key. We need the tenant. Fix the specific data set number, so not anymore. Don't need those anymore. And essentially I might, I was thinking about developing some sort of process type structure based on the first two name parts of this system. The system that, the first two name parts of the procedure or function. but I'm not sure yet. I want to see how the system develops before we classify something, and that is an option we have. That is a very neat thing that we have. So now I'm going to copy these. Paste them. And replace them. We do not have a group domain yet. We have a database ID. We have a process type ID. We have a process name. No abbreviations or header, and no key name. And here is why. Sometimes, like having this as the key name, or having the stored procedure name as the key name, may not be beneficial. You might be dealing with multiple types of the same procedure that are used under different families, so you want to call that key name directly. So we are not going to add a key name there. And I'm just filling in the rest for defaults. Oh. Like I said, the reason why we're doing it like this, even though they are defaults, is because when we get our change management procedures up, we're going to want to select the whole row of data, replace what's different, and send it to our update. That's going to be the key in a consistent way to insert and update data. So this is practice for getting used to selecting like this. It's not, yes, we could be lazy, absolutely. We could remove all of this, it will work, absolutely. That is what I intend to do with the views also. However, if we're not accustomed to doing it one way, when we start doing it another way, it'll feel like a burden, and it's not a burden. So once these are entered, I'm just gonna go back up to my select statement and get my process type ID again, or my process ID after the insert. I wish the output into would work for a parameter, but it does not. It only works for table variables. So this is in process type ID and actually in process ID. Process type ID is not null. Oh, come on. There we go. And it will fetch next through the cursor. So this time we want to since we already have the information we need, we're going to go ahead and capitalize on that. Process parameter cursor local fast. And it's this guy. do have a strict rule. Well, I mean, all of our procedures are in one database, so we can't really create the name of the same, but we don't want the same object name in every database. Which one do we manage? Which one's malfunctioning? It's going to be a horrible time. So we're going to work off of it being unique. Sequence, family key name, name, process parameter type key name. Nope, kept pushing that down. Excellent. So we need the process parameter type ID. Actually, we'll just grab this thing. I'll delete that select statement and replace it. So now we have a key name of common. But we do have a process parameter family key name. And now we have a process parameter type key name. And this is kind of how we are going to use relationships, where we're looking for an ID and it's going to shift and wiggle with the data that we provided. It's a really cool concept, and it works phenomenally well because we don't need to write a lot of code to make it work. It's data driven. So now I'm just gonna check and see if the process parameter type ID is null, because maybe it's unassigned. And then we'll do the same thing. Except this will be unassigned. So it'll still have the inputs, the outs, it'll still be classified in the family correctly, but we just don't know what data type it is. And that is why we have this little structure. The cool part, once we get to procedurally generating functions, is that this will be one line, and it'll be a lot easier to work with. And all of our written code will shrink dramatically overall. So just like we created the get specific data set number, we're going to have a get class, get family, get type, get realm for everything, and it's going to take in key names. So it's going to be very readable too. You're going to see either, get or select process parameter type ID equals get process parameter type ID for the tenant, and then it'll say common family key name unassigned. So just one line, very readable stuff. But now that we have the parameter type ID, we're just going to insert our data. Because at this point, oh wait, no. One more thing. We need to create a variable then. Bam. We're going to see if it exists before we insert it. And an insert statement. Okay, that is not control. Awesome. I have this joke running with some guys at the office. I mean, it's pure joke, so don't hate on them. I always like to say you could never run out of squares, so we can name columns anything, and that is amazingly funny, but no. No. Get rid of the specific dataset number, Control Shift. Oh, that's right. That's right. And that should be good. Awesome. So, we don't have a tenant yet. We do have a process ID from the outside cursor. We do have a type ID. We do have a name. Abbreviations, no headers, no key names, no display order. Do have a sequence. These are not cleansable for right now. Active, valid, and no. So there is one thing that we need to do. Oh, I pressed a button. There we go. This guy right here. Functions don't have parameter factors. But a function can only return one thing. So we are also going to not use a column, but use a word. If our process parameter name is null, we are going to call it a result. I don't think it'll be null. I think it'll be, yeah, blank. So, when we're looking up the process parameter name, we should actually, whoa, technical difficulties. We're going to take care of that at the very beginning and give it a note so we know why. Functions do not have parameter names. They are blank. And that's it. So, hopefully that is it. Hopefully I didn't miss anything and this will run smoothly. So let's try it out. Oh, that is fair. Process parameter class, process parameter family, process parameter class, common. Yep. Process parameter family. In, out, in, out. Yep, should be good. So let's debug it. Let's see why it failed. Okay. Bam. Spelling errors. Alright, I'm gonna hold down Control Z and do some stuffs. And come on. There we go. There we go. So, that wasn't satisfying enough for me. I'm going to first make sure that we have everything. Sweet. I'm going to get rid of the process parameter data and get rid of the process data. Okay, that's fair. There we go. That's what I wanted. Full working, no brute force. So I want to see if we have a result, and we do. It's gonna be awesome. So easy enough. And ready for this? Now that we have functions and stored procedures in a table, and we have process parameters in a table typed out, ins and outs. We have data sets and data points. We are definitely very far from doing this, but is not unheard of. We can create functionality to send data from a table to specific processes and process parameters. Because not only can we say, hey, this data set's going to go to this parameter in this step, but the data set, the data point ID for this data set is going to match the process parameter of the respective process. So kind of think of a ETL tool with control, because we can step it out. We can create containers, abstract containers, to create a full process. That will be another series because that's a very complicated thing to do. However, I just want to keep giving you pieces of information as we, trudge through the necessity. It may not be fun. I love doing it, but sometimes it just may not be fun, but we have to. So I'm gonna copy this code. And I'm going to get my finder for my data point. Give it some quick edits. Delete, replace. And save. So awesome. We are getting this system moving. This is fantastic. So that is all I have for today's video. Thank you very much. We just went ahead and repeated the same steps we did for the data set and data point to the process and process parameter tables. So now we have processes in this table, and it's going to be important because our next video will be assigning defaults to tables, data driven. So we're going to start working in definitions for the next few videos to make sure that our tables are healthy. And yeah, you'll get to see how the relationship works and the power behind it. So thank you very much for stopping by, and leave a comment if you have any questions. My name is Elric, and you have a good one.